Chapter 4 of John's Gospel is so different than chapter 3. In chapter 3, we have a really religious man who's respected and a leader. But in chapter 4, we find Jesus in what we like to call a divine appointment. And he meets with this woman at the well that is really antithetical, the very opposite of Nicodemus, the religious leader. We read here that she's been married multiple times. A lot of people have tried to figure out what's going on with that. Why so many marriages? Well, you can imagine in the ancient world, it was usually men who had the authority to do divorces. And so she's been used and abused. I've heard people joke maybe she was a bad cook or maybe she was immoral. I don't think that's really the way to read this text. I think this woman has been used as an instrument by a lot of men. And we find her midday at the well alone, probably because of shame. She's not with other women gathering together. And in the ancient world, men would not talk to women in public, but even more so, Jewish people and Samaritans. Wow, ethnic hostility. In the United States, you could compare this to back in the Jim Crow days when there was literally water fountains and bathrooms that were made for people of different ethnicities. And people were segregated. This was the case in John chapter 4. Jewish people never went into this region called Samaria. And yet, Jesus tells this woman everything she's ever done. Why? Because he's God and he knows all things. And he offers her living water to quench her thirst. This woman has had a hard life and she's drank from all the wrong places. And Jesus says, if you come to me, I'm the Messiah and I will give you living water. By the way, who does Jesus first reveal himself to in John's Gospel as the Messiah? Not a Jewish person, a Samaritan woman, someone of a different ethnic group. What a reminder, we need to be born again. Our first birth is not enough. This woman believes, and she goes and tells everybody and leads her whole village to believe in Jesus. And it says Jesus stays there 2 more days. He stays in Samaria 3 days. You remember how the gospel began? The Word, Jesus, became flesh and he dwelt among us. He comes to us. And then I love how chapter 4 ends. It ends with the story of that man who was a royal official whose son was sick and dying. And he wants Jesus to come to his house. But it's very interesting to me when we read this, Jesus doesn't come. He just speaks a word. And all of a sudden, his son is healed. Now think about this. A doctor today has to do an exam of somebody. They ask questions. They triage the situation before they prescribe medicine or therapy. Jesus is God. He knows everything. He's omniscient. He doesn't have to ask those kind of questions. All he does is speak a word, and the boy is healed. Does this not remind us of the beginning of the book? Jesus is the Word. When Jesus speaks, God speaks. And immediately, that boy's life is changed forever. And so will our lives be when we hear the voice of God. I look forward to seeing you in chapter 5.